What's up, guys? You already know what's going on. My name is Andrew, and you're listening to Genuine Radio. This episode is part of our election series, and this election season has been quite the election season so far. Election day is actually tomorrow, and millions of people have already voted. Um, I'm here with two guests who prefer to remain anonymous, but today we'll be talking about who they think would be the best choice for president. So, gentlemen, please, what are your thoughts on who should be the next president of the United States?
Uh, all right, so I guess I'll go first. So, usually in politics, I try to remain neutral, understand both sides of the coin because there's always two sides, right? But amidst the current events, I truly believe that Trump may be better in this next term than his rival Biden, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. And mainly right now it's due to the economy, right? uh, there's a pandemic going on. A lot of people thought it was only going to last for probably the end of this year. We were going to kind of vaccine, that would have been done. But if you look at the stats, our economy is actually devastated. If it weren't for the actions of the government, we're giving one, I believe it's $1 or $2 trillion to the public. So that equates to around $1,000 to $2,000 per person.
Mhm.
Uh, we would have had another depression. So I'm really happy the way the federal government handled the situation. Although we're not fully recovered, the Trump administration is making sure that businesses don't shut down and the economy stays open as much as it can, all while trying to stay protected from the virus, right?
Right.
Um, if you look at Biden's point of view, even in the debate, he wanted to shut down the economy again to just fix the pandemic. But the issue with that is the vaccine itself needs a stable economy to work,
Mhm.
right? Right now, the
Yeah.
biggest issue is that the vaccine doesn't have enough funding from all these private organizations to actually move on to the final phase of being distributed to each and every citizen, right? If you look at some articles that they said, um, the biggest issue right now is not having enough resources to send out these new phase 3 vaccines for large clinical trials.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that if my partner wants to continue.
Yeah, yeah, I just like how he's leading the country as far as economy and also I really like commend the foreign policy that he's doing with the Middle East especially. He's been signing a lot of peace deals, and he's being nominated for these Nobel Peace Prizes and everything. And then if you look at like beginning of the term, they would say, "Oh, Trump is going to start a war. This guy's going to like create a world war or something," right? And then you see he's like he's one of the first presidents in 39 years that hasn't started a war, which is pretty surprising. If you look at Obama's administration with Biden, they had like he was continuing the Iraq war, and then he has an invasion of Libya and all these Middle East countries where he's just bombing them, and it was just like completely different. And then you have in the beginning of the Trump thing, they had North Korea, and they were really like they were seemed threatening, and then he got a peace deal with them. If you look at China, they're signing sanctions, so bringing jobs back to America, so building the economy here. What else? He also helped the minorities. I would say he helped the minority community a lot of this is not seen by the media, and you won't see this in headlines or anywhere. But he's created the lowest Black unemployment, Latino unemployment, highest Latino home ownership, and the lowest amount of Black people in jail since 1898. And then I look at the media and then I see, oh, Trump is racist, but why is Trump a racist? Like if you look at Biden, I would say Biden is technically more racist than Trump. It's just not based on its actions speak louder than words. So Biden, in his time of being senator for 47 years, he's worked with proud segregationists. He worked to stop busing for and keep schools segregated. He said it's moving. He doesn't want to change the educational systems, and he worked with I forgot his name. Who's his name? James Eastland. Yeah, James Eastland. He was a proud segregationist, and he worked with him. And he thought James Eastland thought Black people were an inferior race, like I would say that that's racist, right? If you work with someone that supports stuff like that, that makes you racist too. Yeah, and he always talked to, like, even Biden has a great set of racist quotes like over his time, and you would say, like, even in the campaign now, he said poor kids are just as bright and talented as white kids. That's clear racism. And then if you say, oh, if you have a problem figuring out if you're voting for me or Trump, you ain't black. Like, he thinks that's that easy to get these votes, and I don't think that's true. Like people don't research it. Like last year, Trump only won 8% of the vote for African American communities. But if you look at this year, he gained a lot of favor. Like 46% are now 46% in a recent poll showing that they would like to support Trump over Biden because over the racist past. And then you see Kamala Harris. I mean, I'm mostly talking about why I shouldn't vote for Biden, but and the Trump standpoint, I would say, yeah, he's helped in the minorities. He gave $52 billion to neighborhood zones, so like opportunity zones, 9,000 neighborhoods that have double the poverty rate and have 35 million people in those cities, right, in those neighborhoods. And he used tax breaks to help businesses get funding. So $52 billion was invested in these businesses and giving jobs to the community. And he also gave historically black colleges $250 million per year for a whole decade. So they're set. They don't need more funding. He's also pushed the Platinum Plan, which gave it's planning on pulling $500 billion for African American communities. He signed legislation to forgive debt. If you look at Hurricane Katrina, there's a lot of debt. He signed legislation to relieve the debt in the minority communities. What else? Yeah, we had a black president for 8 years, but in those 8 years, he didn't name the KKK a terrorist organization. Trump signed legislation that said KKK is a terrorist organization, which I found that was pretty surprising. Like, how can you support like a party that oh yeah, and Republicans, they're like, okay, they're going to say KKK is a terrorist, but you're not going to say, Democrats are not going to say KKK is a terrorist. I don't know why that wasn't signed, or how can you say that? And then he advocated for school choice, which allowed kids in poorer districts to go to schools that they want. So you know how this big thing about redlining, right, and systemic racism.
Yeah.
Redlining is a big thing. It's like communities closed off and they're seen as untouchables and all that stuff. He allowed like these kids to move out of districts and go to schools with better educational opportunities. I mean, in his past statements, I would say, I'm sorry, do you want to say something?
No, you can continue. I was just gonna mention that, like,
yeah, I want to hear your point of view too. Yeah.
So something that's been circulating the media around, you know, the past few months was that, the idea that Biden is the lesser evil. Many people have acknowledged the fact that both of these candidates, they aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're they both have pretty colorful pasts. But what is your take, or you and your partner can answer, on the fact that on the idea that people are circulating that Biden is the quote unquote lesser evil? Do you agree with that? And if not, why?
Yeah, I guess I'll take this again. So one thing I feel like everyone should know, first and foremost, the media is a business. They will feed you whatever you want to hear, and then essentially they'll manipulate you into thinking in their ways, and then they'll grasp you in their, in quotes, cult, right? That's why people should stay away from using social media as their news outlets, or even left or right swayed news outlets, namely CNN or Fox, right? It's always best to use the general rule, like read a left source, a right source, and then a neutral source, and then create your own idea, right? So this whole idea that Biden is the lesser of evil just comes throughout because if you look at just basic facts, that Trump has been our president currently, right? So you have more recent things to bash him about, even though those things to bash him about are statistically incorrect. And Biden has never ran for a presidential term, right? He's always been in the shadows, either as a VP or a senator, right?
It's actually not true. He's ran this is his third time running. He failed twice because he was caught for plagiarizing and he made too many mistakes. He withdrew from presidential races. This is his third time.
Interesting. See, I did not know that. So basically, since people say Biden is lesser of two evil, it's just they're spreading verbal propaganda, right? If they see one person posting that, they'll be like, oh, okay, this is true, because you essentially won't fact check it. If you believe that source, then okay, yeah, sure. You just slap like a news outlet on it and say, okay, Biden is the lesser of two evils. But the problem with that is, okay, you can't judge somebody that someone's the lesser of two evil. That's such a subjective argument, right? So, like, okay, Biden being racist and sometimes Trump saying indirect comments that go out of context make him look racist. Okay, sure. All right, since Trump always gets a spotlight for hatred, that doesn't mean Biden is in the good terms. So since Biden never gets a spotlight, and when he does, people try to remain quiet about it because they don't know what to say, right? So essentially, you can't subjectively say someone's the lesser of two evil. If someone's evil, then they're evil. There's no less or more. So that's what I have to say.
Going off of that, I would say it's more like action speaks louder than words. So you have Biden over here talking about how he's going to help these people, but have you seen his crime bill, the 1994 crime bill? It just put thousands of people in jail. He fought for like keeping people locked up. The same system that he's saying he will tear apart, which makes no sense. They say systemic racism, and then the system's not fair, and we have, and then to go ahead and vote for Biden because he's advocated for locking people up and keeping people in a lower level. I mean, as far as Trump, I would say he's technically lesser of evil. I wouldn't say he's not polished. He was not polished, and his way of talking is not seen like favorable. He's not liked
Like
by
presidential.
the media. Yeah, he's
Or-
not like.
It's not politically correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I just think that he's done more as far as Biden. Biden's just been talking, and over just these 3 years, he's done more than Biden in the 47 years that he's given the opportunity to do as senator.
Now, in 2016, I feel like a lot of people were shocked by Trump's election to the presidency, but it shows that his election to the presidency shows that there might have been or there was many concerns by Americans that they felt that other candidates would not have fulfilled. So I guess my question to you guys would be, do you guys think that Trump, should he be elected tomorrow or whenever we find out the results, do you guys think that he will continue to do what he's been doing these past 4 years, or will you guys be hoping for him to change it up a little bit?
I think Trump is going on a good roll. He learns from his mistakes, as you could tell from back in 2016. He, I would say he was just picking up speed and like how to become a proper politician, because we all know Trump is a businessman. He
Yeah,
tried
he's
to
not a
turn himself.
politician.
Yeah. But to say that, most people should be scared of politicians over businessmen, right? Trump tried to make an economy better, which he did, and that's a fact. And then this pandemic came along, which destroyed everything he worked hard on to build, right? So to answer your question, I think Trump is on a roll, right? He still, if he wins, he has 4 more years to improve, right? Going back to the economy argument, right? The whole sanctions in China are not because Trump wants to have a bad relation with China. If you look at it, China's been trying to push away American working, and apparently for China, how America's China is China, China's China is Africa now, right? And so since China wants to push out all of its like American economy and all the security threat with technology, Trump is saying, okay, let's sanction off China and let's make India our new China, right? This relation between it, I don't know if you guys know, but India's leader is Prime Minister Modi. So Trump is trying to have a nice relationship with Modi so he could bring more working class to India, right? That also in turn helps India raise its economy. And we all know if the world economy goes up, it only brings good things. China's economy was starting to decline over the years because of how they use their workforces. A lot of their workers make about 3-4 pennies a day for doing like 10 to 12 hours of work, right?
Yeah.
In India's case, you make way more, and if you make way more, the GDP of India goes up. And if you have two countries that have good relations with each other, then trading becomes better. And
Hmm.
if in any case a collapse in the economy like we're facing right now were to happen, two allies could join forces and abruptly fix the economy. So in my eyes, if Trump just continues doing what he's doing, makes allies with a lot more nations, and just focuses on America, then we should be fine. It's like I feel like his foreign policy is more like being friends with everyone, keeping them like in the bleachers. So if you need somebody to come help you out, he'll help you out. It's more like isolationism, but also making good relations and mending previous relations with others. If you looked at uh, the North Korean relations, of course, America was really unstable with them. Trump actually went to North Korea and tried to speak to Kim Jong Un about easing tensions and taking away some of these sanctions over there. And last I've heard, I haven't heard a huge headline of North Korea trying to test nukes. That was probably 2 years ago. So if
Yeah.
you look at that, Trump is doing a good job. Um, if my partner wants to continue.
What were you asking, Andrew? Like, what was your question again?
Like basically, would you like to see him continue what he's been doing for the past few years, or would you like to should he get reelected, would you like to see him like do other things or change anything?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So I would say I would like him to continue as far as how he's helping the economy and how he's giving power to everyone, like minorities, and bring jobs back to USA, bringing jobs back to America, making American exporter, and sorry, yeah, exporter, not an importer. So we need to bring the jobs back here. We need to make the economy stronger. Um, I would say he should change in the way to become more presidential, like
Hmm.
the way he talks. He should be a little more less brash because the media, whatever he's gonna say, the media is gonna find a way to twist it and then put it in a way that oh he's racist. Like they're gonna paint him as a racist. Um, but as far as policy, I think he's doing a really good job as helping the country as a whole, building the country up, and I would like to see him continue what he's doing. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're referring to COVID, yeah, bring up the COVID thing, right? That's a big thing right now.
Hmm.
I would say he's. I don't think Biden would have handled this any differently. So the only thing he would say, he's going to say, "Oh, we're going to do lockdowns." Okay, cool. That's not going to change it. That's just going to affect the economy. You're going to have people. The suicide rates went really high. You have people losing jobs. You have people out on the streets. It's really bad right now. And these lockdowns, I don't even think lockdowns is going to help that much because there's been a study with like people wearing masks. They still had like cases, like they still experienced COVID cases, which is kind of odd. And then if you look at Fauci, from the beginning, Fauci like changed his ideas on the mask, like, oh, Trump doesn't listen to scientists. But then you look at the fact that Fauci was like, oh, don't wear a mask. You don't need a mask in the beginning. And then he switched from only N95, then surgical, and then he said cloth. Like as time progressed, he keeps switching the narratives. I was really confused in that. Um,
Do you guys agree with um his, well, not his personally, but in the beginning he really wasn't wearing the mask, and then he changed to wearing the mask, and then
yeah.
um he unfortunately caught the virus itself. But do you guys, like, what are your thoughts on the anti-maskers, quote unquote, those people who like are refusing to wear masks?
Yeah. Would you like to add anything, partner?
Yeah, so the issue with the anti-maskers, right? That's right now one of the most how do I word this? It's a big issue to say the least because not wearing your mask has proven to spreading the coronavirus even faster. And if you
Hmm.
look at the news recently, it's safe to say that sadly we're in a phase two, and phase two it has like the first day of phase two surpassed the amount of cases of the peak of phase one, right?
Hmm.
And if people just were more cautious and wore masks everywhere, we could contain the virus at bay, right? I understand that, okay, this whole pandemic has led to people being homesick, people are staying at home. So I understand that, okay, easing some of that using some of those restrictions and letting people go back to normalcy, having a leisure life, all of that, opening beaches. I know some amusement parks have opened,
Yeah.
yet there should be strict rules put in place that people should wear a mask if they're going out anywhere. I understand, like, if you're with their family, but I suggest, in my opinion, if we want this to go anywhere, um, I understand you can't force people to do something, but
Yeah.
if the government really wants to take this virus and eliminate it, like even before a vaccine comes out, make people get tested. Those who are at higher risk, make sure they are quarantined.
Hmm.
The issue with schools opening back up, I think that is a flawed argument where schools are opening back up and letting students take a mask because the density of a lot of schools is huge, right? Um, and having 30, at least in elementary school, having 30 students crammed in one room, or like in high school about like 20 students crammed in one room, that you can't social distance in
Yeah.
that amount of space, right? Just putting up those privacy
The
filters doesn't.
yeah, the
Yeah,
glass.
yeah, I don't know what they're called, but I'll
I
just call them
forgot.
privacy filters. Yeah,
Plexiglass, I think.
Yeah,
yeah,
plexiglass.
it's made out
Yeah.
of plexiglass, but
Yeah.
there some
So
people
yeah,
just,
so
yeah.
I found something funny. It's like Biden was saying in the debates, "Oh, we're gonna end oil, we're gonna end fracking." He wants to take away, right? And then how are you gonna? He said to build the lockdowns, we're gonna put plexiglass. Like, does he not know that plexiglass is made from these oil corporations? So I found that pretty. I found it pretty funny in the debate. Continue, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially, I feel like everyone should wear a mask, even though it's inconvenient or not. It's just, it's not for like your own safety, because it is, but it's also because of, like, look the bigger picture. If you don't wear a mask, then this thing is going to be prolonged, and returning to normalcy
Yeah.
will just take such a long time. So I feel like anti-maskers um should at least take more precaution. If they don't want to like wear face coverings or something, at least like stay contained in your own like unit and don't like go around spread. And if you know you have the virus, just please don't go around and spread it. Just quarantine yourself. Most symptoms, if you look at it, just lead to a fever and a sore throat, and that's for like teens to like, I think, middle-aged adults, like up to like, I believe, 45, right? After like 2 weeks, you should be fine. So if you could just take it for 2 weeks, that would be fine. And wearing a mask would really exponentially decrease the amount of cases.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to agree. Um, this pandemic is crazy. It's swept the world. No one could have imagined this happening. So I do hope that, in the future, whoever is elected, that they put in place regulations and rules that would be followed, so that we can continue to save lives. Something that one of you mentioned was the debate, and I do want to get your opinion on, both the first and second debates about how Trump carried himself. We saw in the first debate how
Mhm.
he was a little more Trump. He
Yeah.
was attacking Biden a lot, and one of the headlines that came out with his when he didn't outright condemn white supremacy.
Mhm.
Um, and then we move on to the second debate, and we see a different Trump. We see him calm. We see him collected. He didn't attack like there weren't as many outbursts. So, what are your opinions on the debates, how he carried himself, and maybe some of the ideas? I know we don't have that much time left, so
So yeah, the first debate, he was his the way of going about was pretty more on the offense. He was really attacking, and I don't think that was like, and no one liked that debate. It wasn't didn't seem presidential in any way.
yeah,
And then you would say the media came out saying, "Oh, he didn't condemn white supremacy." But if you look at the transcript, he says "sure" like 3 times, and then he goes that says Antifa and all the like rioters are the one like causing damages in these Democrat-led cities. So that was like a major thing. But in the thing, it says he says "sure," and then that's not only the thing. Chris Wallace, the guy that was interviewing him, he said that he asked that same question in 2007. Like, Trump has been asked white supremacy questions around 20 times. I can pull up like around 20 clips saying where he says he disavows from the KKK, disavows from the leaders, and he condemns white supremacy and all that racism. And then continuing on to the second debate, Yeah, I was just defending like the first debate, right? And then the second debate, he completely changed the way he carried himself. I would say
Yeah.
he was a lot more presidential. He put Biden on the spot several times. Like Biden actually looked confused. He was like, "Oh, yeah, who built the cages, Joe?" And Joe Biden couldn't answer. And then there's just like weren't able. A lot of answers weren't answered from Joe Biden's side, and I feel like Trump like came up on far. Like he gained a lot of voters from that last debate. And then talking about the moderators, so Chris Wallace is a Democrat. If you look at the second moderator, you would see that he was an intern at Joe Biden's. He was an intern for Joe Biden, which is clearly biased. And then if you look at the third lady, she did really well actually. I was
Yeah,
surprised she
she
did as
did.
well because she supported Biden and Obama. She donated $15,000 to their campaign last time they ran. So all these three moderators were biased heavily to Biden, and they were like there to help Biden as like I don't know if he would be able to communicate as well. And then if you see that oil question, remember the oil question?
Mhm.
Would you like to end the oil? And then you can see the moderator when he says that, yes, I will ban the oil. And then she looks at him, she goes, why did you say that? Like she said it in a way that you lose a lot of voters in these big states, swing states like Pennsylvania. But so overall, I would say Trump did better in second debate. Second debate. But the middle debate was canceled, saying Trump had COVID. But the doctors came out and said, yeah, he didn't have COVID. He's good now. But I just thought it was like avoiding the debate. So I found that interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we have just about 10 minutes. I'll just say my final question would be, um, what do you say to people who really don't like Trump?
Mhm.
And I'm gonna make these two questions in one. What would you say to people who really don't like Trump and who are, really opposed to him and his rhetoric, his ideas? And my second question would be, what do you hope, whoever the next president is, what do you hope that president will do for the country?
Uh, so obviously, I've said this before, you can't really change people's opinions, right? If somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, Trump is bad. I don't know why you're voting for him." I would just tell them the facts of the things he's done for the country and for minorities, because usually when people say you hate Trump, I mean you support Trump, it's because quote unquote you're racist
Mhm.
or you're a supremacist. And what I say to that is, no, there's Trump. Okay, some of the things he says doesn't come out correctly, and I'll admit sometimes Trump has said things that are racist, right? It's never wrong to admit that you're wrong, right?
Hmm.
But looking at the other side, Biden has equivalently said racist things. So it's more about the potential to change the country for the better. And if you look at it, Biden has had his spotlight in the like presidential campaign as a vice president, right? And
Hmm.
obviously, a vice president doesn't have as much of a responsibility as a president, but they work in the shadows and do as much like advising as the actual president does, right? So if he truly wanted to change stuff in America, he would have said things to Obama instead of air raiding Afghanistan, sending the troops there for over a decade, spending a huge budget of America's GDP on a war that really is just didn't end, right?
Hmm.
Um, Trump has actually been doing good things. So to answer your question, I would just tell people to just rethink their views. Of course, both sides have their pasts. I'll just tell them, just rethink, and if you don't, then we can all agree to disagree.
Okay. And then my second question for you, and then your partner can continue. What do you want to see, whoever wins? What do you want to see them do for America?
Um, well, truly, obviously, I want them to handle this COVID situation as fast as possible. And now, like a huge problem that we are facing, that a lot of presidents have brought up but have never really done anything about it, is start to realize the implications of global warming and climate change. Of
Hmm.
course, just immediately banning oil does nothing good to the country. but a slow transition to like at least say, oh, by 2050 we want to lower our emissions by like 50%, 75%. Like all these companies in America are taking initiative. Like Apple is saying they want to be 100% carbon neutral by the end of, I believe, 2030 or something.
Mhm.
Microsoft is saying the same. So if like world leaders come together and actually address the issue, because that's a looming threat that we're facing. But um, other than that, I just hope that Trump learns to be a little more politically correct and changes his tone in a way that things that he says doesn't come off as offensive in a way, and more or less work on rebuilding the economy again, and probably work on the medical industry, because as you could tell, this due to this pandemic, they just got crippled to their
Yeah.
knees because they
Yeah.
weren't prepared. So instead of having a huge budget for the military and making sure they're prepared for threats that kind of seem unworldly, I'd say like at least distribute some of that money that goes into the yearly budget to like other fields like medical, education, development in other parts of the countries. Like I know there's a lot of slums, not as bad as other countries, but if the budget went there to improve life of, let's say, the hood parts of America, right? Because I know this is a topic that's brought up a lot about um, redlining and not having enough uh, money in those types of areas. Well, I
Mhm.
know Trump was working on making those establishments more hospitable, but if like just like budgeting properly and just making sure America just improves and grows altogether.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I would say right now there's a big divide around people. There's like two halves of the country. You have
Yeah.
the Republicans, the Democrats, and I think there's two split. So there has to be a time where they come to like they have to come to an understanding. Like we can't have America split. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like uh the media itself has to portray like different aspects. Like they're pushing like fear and everything. Like when Biden was talking, we're gonna have a dark winter. Like that's pushing more fear, more uncertainty to people. So I don't know if that's like the right way to market it. I would say whoever wins the next election, they should be able to lead the country in a way that they can bring more togetherness. I would say Trump, people who like they would say white supremacists, they may feel more empowered because of Trump, but that's not like the entire thing. That's not like what Trump stands for. It's like same with Biden. You would say like Antifa or these really radical left people. They're not. It's not just Biden that's saying, yeah, these are my people. These are the people that are dividing the country. So it's just like just because you support something doesn't make you what like say you're a Trump supporter, you'd be seen as racist, but I don't think that's true as far as like actual actions. And whoever the next president is, they yeah like I said, we should work on climate change. We should make the climate better, more green future. But I would say Trump has helped like reduce emissions. If you look at carbon emissions, they went down in the past 4 years, as particularly America. And then you look at China, their emissions are crazy. They're like, if you look at the
Mhm.
graphs, it's crazy like
Yeah.
how high China is. That's what I mean. Like if you bring jobs back to USA, you're technically helping the climate, right? Think
Mhm.
about it, because China won't have to produce as much as they do. Um, so in a way, you're helping the climate. I would say he also helped with the Wilderness Act. 100 million acres. He's preserving, and then hold on, that was a wrong fact. Yeah, I had 10 million acres, and then yeah, whoever the president is, they just need to bring more peaceful in the country. That's it. That's
Yeah.
my main thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. This country needs more unity.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like whatever happens tomorrow, um, I feel like I would love to see that in this country. Um, Definitely more positivity. Because that's what we all need. We're living in a pandemic right now, and
Yeah.
it's life is so hard for so many people. But either way, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Mhm.
Um, I want to thank you two so much for coming on the show. For taking your time out of your day and sharing your points of view. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much for having us,
Thank you.
giving a platform for us to speak on it.
Of course.
All right. Have a good day.
Of
Take
course.
care.
And thanks for the listeners to listening today. Peace out, everyone.